I bet you didn't know how deep the roots of the Russia-Ukraine conflict go. This video is a bit longer than usual, as we've made every effort to cover all the essential aspects of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Every detail included is vital and cannot be missed. If you prefer, feel free to watch at 1.25x speed, but otherwise, sit back and immerse yourself in this comprehensive masterclass on the Russia-Ukraine war. This is everything you need to know about the issue. Ancient origins, Kyivan Rus, the shared beginning. Ukraine and Russia share deep historical roots that date back over 1,000 years. Both trace their origins back to a medieval state called Kyivan Rus, which played a pivotal role in shaping their early histories. This East Slavic civilization thrived between the 9th and 13th centuries, leaving a lasting legacy. Kyivan Rus was a vast and powerful realm, encompassing a significant portion of Eastern Europe. It stretched from the Baltic Sea to the Black Sea, covering a diverse range of territories. Its cultural influence reached far and wide, impacting neighboring regions and beyond. This shared heritage is important to understand, as it forms the foundation of the complex relationship between Ukraine and Russia. It shapes the complex relationship between Ukraine and Russia today, influencing their political and cultural dynamics. Kyivan Rus was a vibrant center of trade and culture, attracting merchants and scholars from various regions. It adopted Orthodox Christianity from the Byzantine Empire, which had a profound impact on its religious and cultural development. This had a lasting impact on the religious and cultural identity of both Ukrainians and Russians, shaping their spiritual landscapes. The legacy of Kyivan Rus is visible in the architectural heritage and historical landmarks of both nations. We see it in the architecture, language and traditions of both nations, reflecting their shared past. However, it is important to remember that Kyivan Rus was a diverse realm, home to various East Slavic groups. It encompassed different East Slavic groups with their own distinct identities, contributing to its rich cultural tapestry. The Mongol invasions in the 13th century brought an end to Kyivan Rus, marking a significant turning point in history. The Mongol conquests shattered the unity of the East Slavic world, leading to fragmentation and the rise of new powers. This led to the emergence of separate principalities, each with its own trajectory. These principalities would eventually develop into distinct Ukrainian and Russian states, each forging its own path. Despite their shared origins, the historical paths of Ukraine and Russia diverged, leading to unique national identities. The collapse of Kyivan Rus marked a turning point, setting the stage for the development of separate Ukrainian and Russian identities. It set the stage for the development of separate Ukrainian and Russian identities, each with its own historical narrative. It is crucial to recognize that Ukrainian history did not begin with Kyivan Rus. It has deep and independent roots. It continued to evolve independently with its own unique cultural and historical developments. This distinct trajectory is central to understanding Ukraine's struggle for sovereignty, which continues to this day. Empires rise. Russia's expansion and Ukraine's fate. Over the centuries, Russia steadily expanded its territory, driven by a desire for power and influence. This expansion came at the expense of its neighbors, particularly Ukraine, which found itself caught in the crossfire. In the 17th century, Ukraine was divided between Russia and Poland, leading to a fragmented national identity. The Ukrainian Cossacks, a warrior class, fought valiantly for independence and self-determination. They sought to create their own state, free from foreign domination. However, their efforts were ultimately unsuccessful, and their dreams of independence were crushed. Russia's growing power led to the gradual absorption of Ukrainian lands, further diminishing Ukraine's autonomy. The Russian Empire, under the rule of Tsars, sought to suppress Ukrainian culture and language, viewing them as threats. Ukrainian identity was seen as a threat to Russian unity and was targeted for eradication. This policy of cultural assimilation aimed to erase Ukrainian distinctiveness and integrate them into the Russian Empire. It sought to integrate Ukrainians into the Russian Empire, making them indistinguishable from Russians. Despite these attempts at suppression, Ukrainian national consciousness persisted and grew stronger. Ukrainians continued to cherish their language, culture, and history, passing them down through generations. They resisted assimilation and sought to preserve their heritage, often at great personal risk. This resilience would prove crucial in the 20th century as Ukraine faced new challenges. It laid the groundwork for Ukraine's struggle for independence, which would continue for decades. The Russian Revolution of 1917 offered a brief glimmer of hope for Ukrainian independence, sparking new aspirations. A short-lived Ukrainian People's Republic emerged, symbolizing a fleeting moment of self-governance. However, it was crushed by Soviet Russia, ending this brief period of independence. Ukraine was forcibly incorporated into the Soviet Union as a republic, losing its sovereignty once again. This marked the beginning of a new chapter in the complex and often tumultuous relationship between Ukraine and Russia. A nation reborn, Ukraine's independence in 1991 was a pivotal moment in the nation's history. The collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 was a watershed moment for Ukraine, altering the geopolitical landscape of Eastern Europe. After decades of Soviet rule, Ukraine declared its independence, stepping into a new chapter of its national story. This historic event marked the culmination of a long struggle for self-determination, a dream held by many generations. On August 24, 1991, the Ukrainian parliament adopted the Act of Declaration of Independence of Ukraine, a monumental legislative act. The declaration was supported by an overwhelming majority of Ukrainians, reflecting a unified national spirit. In a referendum held on December 1, 1991, over 90% of Ukrainians voted in favor of independence, a clear mandate for freedom. This resounding vote demonstrated the Ukrainian people's desire for freedom and self-governance, a powerful statement to the world. It marked the beginning of a new era for Ukraine, filled with hope and potential. Ukraine's independence was a momentous occasion, celebrated with joy and optimism across the nation. It signaled the end of the Soviet Empire and the emergence of a new Europe, reshaping the continent's future. However, the path to a peaceful and prosperous future was far from assured, with numerous challenges ahead. The legacy of Soviet rule, including economic challenges and political instability, cast a long shadow over the newly independent nation, complicating its journey. Despite these difficulties, Ukraine embarked on the challenging task of building a democratic society, striving for a better future. It sought to establish a market economy and integrate into the international community, aiming for global recognition and cooperation. The journey ahead was fraught with obstacles, but the spirit of the Ukrainian people remained unbroken. However, the Ukrainian people were determined to chart their own destiny, showcasing resilience and hope for a brighter future. Shadows of Conflict 2014, Crimea and the Donbas. In 2014, the long-standing tensions between Ukraine and Russia escalated into open conflict. Following the Euromaidan Revolution, a popular uprising that ousted pro-Russian President Viktor Yanukovych, Russia annexed the Crimean Peninsula. This illegal seizure of Ukrainian territory marked a turning point in the conflict. Russia's annexation of Crimea was widely condemned by the international community. Western nations imposed sanctions on Russia, but these measures did little to deter further aggression. In eastern Ukraine, Russian-backed separatists launched a war against the Ukrainian government. The conflict in the Donbas region has claimed thousands of lives and displaced millions. The conflict in eastern Ukraine is a tragedy for both countries. It has resulted in immense human suffering and exacerbated the already strained relations between Ukraine and Russia. The conflict has also had a profound impact on the geopolitical landscape of Europe. It has heightened tensions between Russia and the West. The events of 2014 marked a turning point in the relationship between Ukraine and Russia. They shattered the illusion of a peaceful post-Soviet order. The conflict in Ukraine is a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and the importance of upholding international law and respecting the sovereignty of nations. To understand the depth of the conflict, we must delve into the geography, resources, and history of the region. The terrain here is diverse, ranging from lush valleys to arid deserts. These geographical features have shaped the lives of those who inhabit the land. Natural resources, such as oil and minerals, have made this area a focal point for economic interest and international attention. The abundance of these resources has often led to both prosperity and strife. Historically, this region has been a crossroads of civilizations, a melting pot of cultures, languages, and religions. Centuries of trade, conquest, and migration have left an indelible mark on its identity. The history of this land is rich with stories of empires rising and falling, of battles fought and alliances forged. Each era has contributed to the complex tapestry that defines the present-day conflict. By examining the geography, resources, and history, we gain a clearer picture of the underlying factors that have fueled tension and shaped the current state of affairs. It's a reminder that the present is deeply rooted in the past. Late 2020, increased skirmishes in eastern Ukraine's Donbas region between Ukrainian forces and Russian-backed separatists led to heightened casualties and displacement. Early 2021, Russia commenced a substantial military buildup along Ukraine's borders, raising international concerns over a potential large-scale invasion. 2022, full-scale invasion and initial advances. February 24, 2022, Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine, marking a steep escalation in the conflict. The invasion followed a series of demands by Russia for security measures and prohibitions against Ukraine joining NATO, which were rejected. March-April 2022. Russian forces advanced rapidly, capturing key territories in eastern and southern Ukraine, including the strategic city of Mariupol. 2023, Ukrainian counteroffensive and stalemate. June 2023. Ukraine initiated a substantial counteroffensive aiming to breach Russian front lines and reclaim occupied territories. Despite initial efforts, the offensive faced significant challenges, and by the end of 2023 it had ended in failure. September 2023, notable international involvement included individuals like 22-year-old Briton Sam Newey, who joined Ukrainian forces and was killed in action, highlighting the global resonance of the conflict. 2024, Ukrainian incursion into Russia and escalation. August 2024, Ukrainian troops launched a surprise invasion into Russia's Kursk region, marking the largest foreign attack on Russian soil since World War II. This operation aimed to gain leverage in ongoing negotiations and demonstrated Ukraine's offensive capabilities. September-December 2024. The conflict intensified with fierce battles in the Kursk region. Russia mobilized reserve troops, leading to significant civilian displacement. Both sides incurred substantial casualties amid fluctuating territorial control. 2025. International diplomacy and ongoing conflict. January 2025. The United States, under President Trump, withdrew military and intelligence aid to Ukraine, pressuring Kyiv towards negotiations with Russia without security guarantees. This shift aligned with Russia's geopolitical aims and emboldened its military actions. February-March 2025, despite diplomatic efforts including ceasefire proposals, the conflict persisted with continued clashes in contested regions. The international community remained divided over intervention strategies, with Europe considering measures to compensate for reduced US support. Throughout this period, the Russia-Ukraine war has been characterized by shifting front lines, significant human suffering, and complex international involvement, underscoring the protracted nature of the conflict. As of March 13, 2025, the Russia-Ukraine conflict has seen significant developments involving US intervention and diplomatic efforts led by President Trump. Ceasefire proposal and US involvement. The US administration, under President Trump, has proposed a 30-day ceasefire between Ukraine and Russia. This initiative emerged from diplomatic talks held in Saudi Arabia, aiming to halt the ongoing conflict and pave the way for more comprehensive peace negotiations. The US has indicated that failure to comply with the ceasefire could result in severe financial penalties against Russia. In conjunction with the ceasefire proposal, the US has resumed military aid to Ukraine, including arms deliveries and intelligence support. This move is intended to bolster Ukraine's defense capabilities amid the ongoing conflict. Diplomatic engagements and reactions. President Trump has actively engaged in diplomatic efforts to resolve the conflict. He has communicated directly with both Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, emphasizing the importance of reaching a peaceful resolution. However, concerns have arisen regarding the exclusion of Ukraine from certain negotiations, particularly those held between US and Russian officials in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Ukrainian officials have expressed that any agreement made without their direct involvement would be unacceptable. Challenges ahead. Despite these diplomatic efforts, challenges persist. Russian forces have continued to make territorial gains, potentially reducing Moscow's incentive to agree to a ceasefire. The Kremlin has expressed caution, emphasizing the need for a comprehensive agreement that addresses its strategic interests. The international community remains watchful as these developments unfold, with hopes that sustained diplomatic efforts will lead to a lasting resolution of the conflict. Hey everyone! If you found this deep dive into the Russia-Ukraine conflict informative, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It really helps us bring you more content like this. We want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and let us know, who do you think is in the right or wrong? What should be done to resolve this conflict? Where are you watching from, and what's your country's stance on this situation? Your perspective matters, and we're reading every comment. So, hit that subscribe button, join the conversation, and let's dive deeper together. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.